Okay, because Square was basically created as a solution for small business owners who needed to accept credit card payments, it wasn't technically created for an e-commerce web-based tool to accept payments over the internet. So they don't have any kind of system inside where you can like create buttons or anything like that. They've got a lot of different tools, and there's a lot of things you can do inside here. But creating actual buttons for a website that you can just copy and paste into your website that connects up to your Square store isn't really one of them. There is, however, you can actually, I believe you can create like a page based on all of the products that you have in your Square application, and that can be web-based, but I'm not entirely sure how that works because I have not actually used that. But I do know that they have this apps section. It's on the left after you log in, and then you can go to the apps marketplace, and they have applications that you can download and use for accounting, which is kind of nice because basically it syncs up with everything that you do with your Square account, and then it can go right into anything that you have for your taxes. So you can, especially with small business people, where they usually have their personal taxes and their small business taxes together. They file them together. So all these pieces are really kind of nice because it makes it a little bit easier to use. It can kind of, like this one here, can kind of merge Quicken Books with your Squarespace. So that's kind of nice. And then if we scroll down, you see that we get to this e-commerce piece. So this is Square's solution to not being able to create buttons for an e-commerce store. So basically, what they've done is they've gotten together with companies that already have like e-commerce templates, and these companies have created templates based on Square's API. So the pages already sync up with Square's API. And all you would have to do is kind of put in your products, put in your prices, change the CSS, maybe change some HTML. So you would change the codes that you know to match the rest of the site. So there's Wix and Weebly, and if we scroll down, there's a couple other ones that you may have heard of before. Drupal eCommerce, Zencart, OpenCart. So there's quite a few systems that you can use as a like a storefront piece to the website. And I have a couple open, so I want to talk about them real quick. Here we are looking at Weebly, and you can see that this one is $8 a month. And they do have support, so you can call this phone number, and they will give you some support for utilizing their system. Here's WooCommerce, that's $79, a one-time flat fee. They do have some support, but it's not a whole lot. And then there's the Zen cart, and this is free. It is completely customizable, but there's really no support with it. Because it's open source, you can try to ask them questions, but 9 times out of 10 you probably won't get an answer. Zencart, if we go to the website, this is what you get when you go to the website. It is like I said, it's open source, so it's free. It's this specific Zencart is set up to work with Square, so it's based on Square's API. And you would download the whole entire Zencart system, where you would get all of the whole zip file, and then you would get all of these PHP files with the admin, with all the requests to get to Square's system, and all that information. And you would put it in, you would put all those files in to your website, and then you would open up the pieces that you need, and ultimately change the CSS or change the HTML based on what you need. So it kind of talks about the different bits and pieces that you can utilize, how you can test it, and what kind of support they have, some of the common errors that you may see, and problems that you may run into. But there's not, like I said, there's not a whole lot of support with it, because of the fact that it's a free system. Of course, Square is not free. Zencart's free, but Square is not. So every transaction, there is the standard rates of 22.9% and 3 cents per transaction, and that's just how Square works. And I believe PayPal is similar to that. With Square, your customers who are purchasing products, they don't need to make an account. They can, all the information that they put in would only be to purchase the item. They don't need to set anything up with Square to purchase it. They wouldn't even know they're using Zencart. Zencart, let me go back to this one real quick. And you can see how it's got this orange and black screen. That's pretty much their colors when it's first set up, when you first open it up and look at it. So you would have to go in and kind of change things out and change how it looks, basically, with the CSS. But overall, for it being free, I think it works very well. For it to already be synced up with Square's API, I think that's really kind of nice. And if you're comfortable with PHP, I think you would do very well utilizing this kind of a system and getting it to match up with the client's website that you created. So if you wanted to go this route, and instead of trying to download and work with the Square's API yourself, you could utilize something like this, which already has all of Square's API information in there, and then just kind of take these pages and morph them into what you need. You could also download these pages and just kind of use them as a guide and see, how they've put the API codes into their pages and how they've set it up. And so, you can do it that way too. If you think you're comfortable writing the PHP and using Square's API system, just download something like this that's free, where you can look at all the pre-created working files that have the API, Square's API information in there. And that'll help you write the codes properly. So the information of your actual products and pricing and all that would not go necessarily in ZenCart. That's all inside the Square items that are for sale. So you would set all that up in Square, and that's pretty simple to do. It takes you step by step through the process. You can also look at some videos for that as well on Square's website. They have several. So it's a pretty simple process. So you could use the Square system, or you could use the PayPal system at this point. I think PayPal's a little bit easier to utilize and set up, but Square's also available if your customer or client would want to use Square.